Coach Beamer, I first wanted to just jump into the tremendous job you guys have been doing in recruiting following this. I know a lot of people call it a surprise season, winning 7 games. It's certainly a strong debut, but the recruiting is certainly followed up, and especially the transfer portal. I know everybody wants to talk about Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner coming from OU, but what other pieces were you able to add through the portal that makes you feel really good as you go forward in this offseason?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that for one. The biggest thing is looking at it from where we have needs from a depth standpoint, roster management standpoint, and a lot of that it goes back, Brandon, to December in the early signing period with high school young men. And I'll use the example of defensive end slash pass rusher, and then the running back position. Those were two critical positions for us in high school recruiting. And frankly, we didn't get it done. We didn't sign a single high school running back in the month of December. And we didn't sign anybody that we look at and say that's going to be a defensive end pass rusher for us. And there's different reasons for that. We weren't going to take a guy just to take it. I mean, we had the guys at the top of our board that we went after and didn't get them for whatever reason. So we certainly have to be better there going forward. But at that point, you say, okay, we've got an issue at running back because Kevin Harris and Zaquandre White are leaving. So we need to increase the depth at the running back position. And we were able to do that by going out and getting Christian Beale Smith, a transfer from Wake Forest here, who we're excited about. An older guy, has a lot of experience, great special teams player. Lavassier Carroll from Georgia to come in and give us another weapon at the running back position. And then at that defensive end pass rush position, Terrell Dawkins from NC State is somebody that we brought in. You look at the wide receiver position, we needed to increase the competition and depth there. Getting Antwane Wells from James Madison here was huge for us. And at defensive back, Devonnie Reed coming in from Central Michigan, who had a really productive career at Central Michigan. We lose a lot of playmaking ability and a lot of leadership with Jalen Foster graduating off of our team and moving on to the next level. So to be able to get Devonnie in here, that fills a need. And we're not done. I mean, we got to continue to increase the depth at a lot of positions, but we were really able to specifically target areas that were immediate needs for us. And so far, so good. All those guys are here right now, going through spring practice, except for Austin Stogner. He's finishing up some classes at Oklahoma online, but everybody else is here and really been pleased with them all so far.
I wanted to hit on pass rushers. What's that look like right now this spring and going into next year? Who's in the mix there, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, we're fortunate that Jordan Strawn returns, transferred from Georgia State last season, and shared time last year with JJ Enagbari and Aaron Sterling, who have moved on. So Jordan returning, he needs to have a big year, and he's working towards that. Jordan Birch, we're excited about his potential and what he can do. So those are our top two guys right now. Like I said, we added Terrell Dawkins to the roster, and then there's a lot of guys that have been in our program here for a while, but it's time for them to take that next step. Tyreek Johnson, Hot Rod Fitton, Gilbert Redmond. There's guys there that we have to that we're counting on that need to continue to come along, and we've got to be able to rush the passer, and we've got to be able to do it without bringing pressure. And JJ did a good job of that for us last year. We've got to continue to add pass rushing ability and increase the pass rushing ability that we have on the team already.
Yeah, those are two things I really want to hit on. You mentioned it earlier about your depth at the edge, but also your running back room. How's that shit? I know it's early in spring, but kind of take me forward in the future, what that's going to look like when you get in preseason camp in August.
Yeah, I'm excited about the group. We'll always, I said this last year and say it again this year, like we always want to get our best players on the field. And that may be multiple receivers, that may be multiple tight ends, that may be multiple running backs. And I like that running back group that we have because they all have different skill sets. As we do this interview, we've finished, we're a third of the way done with spring practice. We just finished practice number 5. and really, really excited about what Marshawn Lloyd has done through 5 practices. He looks like a different player, and I'm excited about his continued growth at that position. I think he's improved in the passing game as well, catching the football and running routes. He's having a really good spring. Juju Mcdowell returns for us, and Juju did some great things for us last season. Early in the year and then late in the year against North Carolina, scored a touchdown in the bowl game. Did a great job as our kick returner, really a good weapon out of the backfield. Can do a lot of different things with Juju. Rashad Amos is a returner that really, hasn't done a lot since he's been here, but he's had a good spring, and excited to see him continue to progress. And then Christian Beale Smith and Lavassier Carroll, who we talked about, they each have a different skill set, and being able to utilize those guys in different ways. And we're asking them to do a lot right now because, we're thin at the tight end position. Jaheim Bell's battling a little bit of a hamstring right now, nothing major, but he's been limited in practice. Stogner's not here yet. Nick Muse graduated, Travion Kenyon's, back, but we don't have the depth, the tight end position. So we're, in order to get through practice, we're having to utilize the running backs and asking them to do a lot, which will be great for them, going forward as well. But I'm excited about the potential of that group and what they can do.
Yeah, it makes it difficult because, as you said, I mean, that tight end's a spot that where you'll probably be deep when you hit August, but now you just don't have anybody. And I wanted to ask about Jaheim Bell because I think it was your second leading catcher, regardless of position last year. You got Austin Stogner coming in. So how do you use Bell? How do you, not to say keep players happy, but you got some more weapons there. And we've seen it. I mean, tight ends aren't really tight ends in the traditional sense anymore. We're just going to see, Jaheim Bell playing more quote unquote receiver, or what do you see for those two?
He's got to continue to do a lot. I mean, he's got to be able to continue to play more of a hybrid / receiver position, which is what he primarily did in that bowl game. But he's going to have to be able to come into the box and block as well, whether it be in the passing game or running game. I mean, he's still working with the tight ends. He's not totally a receiver. He still works with the tight ends, and he's got to be able to do a lot of the things that tight ends do. But he's a unique talent. I mean, for the great bowl game that he caught 2 touchdown passes, but people forget the first play of the game, we handed the ball to him on a counter play or lead play, I believe, and he ripped off about a 10 or 15 yard run. So, I think Jaheim is excited about his continued growth in this offense, and we've got more playmakers right now than what we did last year at this time, in my opinion. Weapons that we can utilize in a lot of different ways, and excited to continue to tinker with everything from a personnel and schematics standpoint to see who does what best and what we do best as an offense.
You brought in 4 4-star kids, according to 24/7 Sports Composite, in this transfer portal. And, you've mentioned several of them already, but the one that really interests me is Antwane Wells at receiver. What does he bring to that room for you and on the field?
He brings some dog to the room, if that makes sense, in a positive way. I mean, he's got a great competitive spirit about himself. He has a lot of confidence, and he's extremely competitive, and I think he's raised the intensity of that receiver room already, just with the way that he works and competes. I mean, the guy just loves to be on the practice field, whether it's offense, whether it's special teams, whatever. I mean, he wants to work. And he told me when I came here, he's like, "Coach, I'm coming because I want you to hold me accountable. I want to be great and hold me accountable on and off the field and make sure I'm doing that." And he's played a lot of football at James Madison. He was very productive, and just continues to add depth to that receiver room. But he was highly sought after when he went in the portal, and thankful that he ended up here.
So now I'm going to get into the Spencer Rattler talk, which everybody, across the country just wants to know about, just the casual observers. So you obviously want to kind of have a quote unquote competition at quarterback. You don't want to just say this guy's a starter, but I mean, I'd be fooling myself. I didn't say that everybody expects him to be the starter from the outside looking in. How is he performing for you so far this spring? And when you have him on the field, I'm not discounting what you had previous years and what you have right now, but how different is it on the field right now when you got Spencer Rattler out there?
I think it's a lot different. And a lot of that, I'd say, Brandon, is just because of the experience that he has at the quarterback position. And, if you look back at us last year, Luke Doty going into the season was going to be our starting quarterback. And Luke was really a freshman in so many ways from a quarterback standpoint. And then, Zeb Nolan obviously was an older guy and had experience, but not a ton of experience. Here at South Carolina, obviously. And then Jason Brown didn't have any experience at the Power 5 level because he had been at St. Francis. So I think Spencer automatically, has improved that quarterback room and on the field just because, the guy's he's won a Big 12 championship as a starting quarterback, and he's played in a lot of big games. He won a Cotton Bowl and beat Florida, as a starting quarterback. And he's been through a lot of battles. So there's not a whole lot that he hasn't seen or done. He's been through a lot in his career, going all the way back to high school and then his time at Oklahoma. Oh, so I'm, really pleased with what he's done so far. He's done a great job of just, being a part of the team and letting that happen naturally. On the field, continuing to do a great job of, learning what we do on offense, and also, being able to find things that he was comfortable doing at Oklahoma that he liked, that we wanted to, incorporate into the offense as well. And at the same time, competing with all those other quarterbacks. Luke Doty's continuing to get healthier and healthier, and it's fun watching him get back out there. And Colton Gauthier, who was a true freshman for us last year, and watching him improve, and Braden Davis, who we signed that graduated high school early, getting all those guys reps in practice, and they're all making each other better. And that's been pretty cool to see too.
So when everybody thinks of Spencer Rattler, they just think of that Lincoln Riley OU offense. And then, so what's the offense going to look like at OU? From OU to South Carolina, if Rattler is a starter? You say mixing some things in that he's accustomed to, but is there an evolution, I guess, underway with this offense for you guys?
Yeah, I think, with or without Spencer, you always look, you always look back at, what you did the previous season here. So 2021 for us offensively, what did we do well? How do we continue to do that well and get even better at it? What did we not do well? Is it something schematically? Is it something personnel wise? Are we doing something that maybe we're just not very good at doing? And so you always self-scout and analyze. And then every single season, you always want to have an offense that's flexible enough to, to fit the personnel that you have, and getting your best players on the field and doing what they do best. And I feel like we have that with our offense. So we would have certainly made some tweaks and adjustments and scheme changes here and there to the offense, whether Spencer had come in or not. Now that Spencer's, here, and he's getting the majority of their ups as our quarterback right now, you always want to have things that quarterback's comfortable doing. And there's certainly things that we're doing in our offense that Spencer hadn't really done before, getting under center and taking a 5-step drop. I don't know if he ever did that at Oklahoma. Now, like we when I was at Oklahoma with Spencer, he got under center some, but it was majority of the time was like in short yardage goal line situations, down on the goal line or something like that, not in the open field and taking a 5-step drop and throwing the ball downfield.
Yep.
We're doing things like that he's got to learn. But then there's certainly things that that we do here that he did at Oklahoma that he wanted to, felt comfortable with, things that he liked to throw, certain concepts. And we were doing a lot of it already. We have plays in our offense that came from Oklahoma that I did when I was there that we like. We have a play in our offense called Boomer. We have a play in our offense called Sooner. We have a play in our offense called CD after CD Lamb. We have a play in our offense called Kyler after Kyler Murray. So, we've got things that he had already been doing at Oklahoma, but then there's certainly some concepts that they were doing that maybe we weren't doing that Spencer really liked. And he's talked to our offensive staff about it. I mean, he threw a play in practice the other day, and I knew it was going in. And, we call it climb. At Oklahoma, he called it something else. And he threw the pass and hit a big play down the field to one of our receivers. And he turned to me and he's like, that was, and he called it the play that we had it at Oklahoma and things like that. And I'm like, yeah. And then I gave him the signal for it because I don't remember what the signal was for it at Oklahoma. So just little things like that. But you would do that with any quarterback. But again, that's trying to do the things that he's comfortable with and continuing to evolve.
Is he a program changer? Does he change just everything for you?
I mean,
he changed things at OU. I mean,
yeah, no, I think the fact that he, him coming in, he didn't need a big introduction. I mean, everybody knew who he was because of what he had done in high school, what he did at Oklahoma as well. And his talent, he's extremely talented. He really is. I mean, he can make some throws where you're just like, wow. And the fact that he could have gone anywhere in the country and chose to come to South Carolina, I think in a lot of ways is a program changer just from a perception standpoint of maybe how people on the outside see South Carolina, that Spencer could have called up any coach in the country and could have gone there. If they had a quarterback situation that they needed a quarterback, and not many people are going to turn Spencer Rattler down, even if you do have a quarterback.
Right.
But he chose to come here. And I think that opened up a lot of eyes across the country, fans, media, high school recruits. So certainly program changing in that way, in a lot of ways, but also Spencer will be the first to tell you he's one guy. He's a great young man. He hasn't come in here, beating his chest and I'm Spencer Rattler and wanting to be treated differently. He's literally come in and just tried to be one of the guys, and our players respect that. And seeing him out there at practice, you'd think he'd been here for a couple years. He's just very just worried about what he can control and continue to try and get better.
You win 7 games last year. That was exceeding expectations from the outside looking in. And then you go into this year, you had some talent. And so, of course, people just want you to take another step forward, win 8, 9 games. But I think it's difficult for fans and even media for us to understand. It legitimately is when you're a coach or a player, you're legitimately like just focused on like day-to-day stuff and you're planning. But you're not trying to think, well, I'm looking at the schedule, we could do this, because you're always evolving and changing. But how do you follow up a season where you did exceed expectations to a point now where, oh man, if they don't win 8 games this year, maybe that's a little bit of a disappointment just because of the foundation that was set in year 1?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. It's something I've thought a lot about. Goes back to what you said. I mean, it's very much just worry about the process and worry about what you can control. And for us, it's just having great spring practice, just finished practice as we do this interview. Tomorrow, let's have a great day of meetings, walkthroughs, and a lift. And then when we get back out there in 2 days, another great practice, just trying to keep getting a little bit better each day. But we've talked about it as a team, and it's true. We made some great strides in year 1, and there's a lot of things that we didn't do well last year. There's certainly areas that we need to improve, and we've spent a lot of time talking about it with our players. I mean, we like a lot of teams have a plan to win of the 5 things that we need to do each and every Saturday to win football games, and we spent a lot of time going back and looking at that, because a lot of those we did not do a great job of week in, week out last year, and really just finding areas.
What are some of them? I'm curious. What are some of those things that you didn't think you guys did a great job with?
For us, we talk about, like a lot of teams, I don't think it's any earth shattering. We talk about running the ball and stopping the run.
Yeah.
And we weren't very good. We finished the season in a good note running the ball, but we weren't very good at it consistently enough. Didn't do a great job of stopping the run. We improved. I think South Carolina in 2020 was last or next to last in stopping the run. We improved, but not where we needed to be. I think if you look at us, Brandon, the one that's frustrating is we led the SEC last year in takeaways. Our defense, nobody in the SEC created more turnovers than our defense did last season, but our offense turned it over more than any team in the SEC. That's hard to do, to be first and last. in that. So not that we did it before, but we went back and said, okay, we talk about ball security all the time. We do ball security circuits. We emphasize it. We didn't do a great enough job of it. And that's not just running backs holding the ball. That's quarterbacks not throwing interceptions. I mean, that's everything. That's offensive line blocking the right people so the quarterback doesn't get hit in the back. That's the quarterback calling the right plays so we're protected and all that stuff. But we made play smart football for us is penalties. And first few games, I think the first 6 games, we were one of the worst teams in the SEC in penalties. The last half of the season, we were one of the best. I mean, I think we cut our penalties in half from the second half of the season to the first half of the season. So seeing where there's areas to improve like that, really emphasizing it, and then just making sure our guys understand that all the work that went into going from 2 wins to 7 wins, that was awesome. And there's a lot that we can do better, but that next step going from 7 wins to the next step, whether it be 8, 9, 10 and beyond, that's even harder because, our schedule's not getting any easier. And, understanding all the work that has to be done to get back to where we were last year and then take that next step as well. It just doesn't happen because you've got a lot of returning pieces. Like every team's different. And we certainly got a lot of returners, but there's a lot that we lost off last year's team as well.
Yeah, I have a couple quick questions here. What do you do in the secondary? What's that going to look like?
Well, it's a good question.
And who plays where?
Right now I'm trying to sort that out. We're thankful that pretty much everybody returns back there, other than Jalen Foster. But that's a big other than, because Jalen Foster did so much for this football team last year. What a story. A guy that came here as a walk-on and was on the scout team for 2 years. And by his senior year, he's a Walter Camp All-American and was voted a team captain, was voted the MVP of the team by his teammates along with JJ last year. That's a big loss. So we got to replace his leadership for one. But, RJ Roderick, Darius Rush, and Cam Smith were playing we're playing really, really well at the end of the season last year. So they've got to continue to come on. David Spalding returns as our nickel. We got to replace Carlins Patel, but our nickel returns, both corners and one safety. And then, like I said, we added Devontae Reed. So I think we'll be okay back there, but we got some young players that haven't played a whole lot. And we got a lot of leadership that we got to replace back there with Jalen having moved on.
I know I talked a lot about the transfer portal, but who among the freshmen are you going to have an immediate impact that you foresee, or at least maybe you hope will have an immediate impact?
Yeah. Just thinking from a defensive standpoint at the defensive line, position, that's one area where we have a lot of depth, but at defensive tackle, Zach Pickens coming back was huge for us. And we lose Jabari Ellis, but the majority of that group comes back, so we've got some older guys there, but we got some young guys that are pushing them. Deandre Martin is somebody that we're really excited about on the defensive line. That's a true freshman going through spring practice right now. Donovan Westmoreland, he just continues to make plays in practice defensively. He was a guy that was kind of recruited as an edge outside linebacker type guy that, has the ability to play potentially on the edge, but also be an inside linebacker. And, Brad Johnson returns for us, Sherrod Green, Mo Kaba. They played a lot of football for us last year. Sherrod was a starter until he got hurt against Georgia and broke his leg, but he returns. But that's an older group without a lot of depth. And Donovan has come in and done a nice job, it's hard to say right now through 5 practices, but with all of these guys, those are a couple that, stand out. But at every position, we're about competition, and we tell our guys, if you can come in, I don't care if you're a senior, junior, freshman, sophomore, walk on, transfer, scholarship from South Carolina, out of South Carolina, if you're dependable and you can help us win, we're going to find a role for you and you're going to be out there. And so everybody gets an opportunity, and excited to watch these freshmen continuing to just get better and continue to progress here in spring practice.
You and I chatted about a year ago this time, and we were talking about recruiting and how trying to get Carolina back into that space of where, you're getting like top 15, top 10 type classes, which we got accustomed to seeing there during your time as an assistant. And so going into the 2023 cycle here, I know that it's early yet, and you look at recruiting rankings and all that stuff, but where do you think you guys can be, when you come through December and then February through the second signing day? Can you be back in that top 15, top 10 realm potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope. When we talked about it last year, I probably said that we have all the resources we need here to be successful, and we have the things that prospects are looking for. And I believe that even more wholeheartedly now after being here for a year. When you talk about the state of South Carolina, you talk about the city of Columbia, you talk about the academics at this awesome university, you talk about other sports programs and what they're doing here. Women's basketball is winning at the highest level, and playing in the SEC, and looking out my office window right there at an amazing stadium on Saturdays. And this football facility that we have is as good, if not better, than anywhere in the country. So it's been really cool, because when we did that interview last year, high school prospects weren't allowed on our campus yet.
Yeah.
So we didn't even get kids here until last June. So we've had a lot of traffic being visitors, recruiting wise, that have come through here since last June. And we really made a strong emphasis on getting a head start on the class of 2023 last year at this time, like a lot of schools do. But don't get me wrong, I know everybody does, but for us, it was, when you get hired in December and your staff really isn't intact until January, you're kind of playing catch up with the class of 2022s, because your full staff isn't intact until January, February, and signing day is 11 months later, 10 months later. And we had a heck of a signing class. I'm excited about the guys that we put together in a short period of time, but I really think you'll see the fruition of that with the signing class in December, because we have been working on those guys longer than what we had last year to sign the class of 2022, if that makes sense, just because it's a full year here. So I'm excited. I mean, just like our schedule isn't getting any easier, the teams we have to recruit against, it's not getting any easier as well. But that's what you sign up for when you're in the SEC, and we got a great place to recruit to here at South Carolina. And what we did on the field last year certainly opened some eyes, and there's a lot of energy and excitement about South Carolina football right now, and rightfully so. And there's a ton of high school prospects that see that and feel that, and the more we can get them on campus, the better for us.
Is there any bowl game where you wouldn't want something dumped on your head? Yeah, Duke's Mayo dumped on your head. Is there a bowl game out there where you're like, man, if they had to dump their mascot or whatever it is, their sponsor on my head, I'm not doing that. Mayo's about as bad as it could potentially get.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it that much, but I can't imagine anything being worse than mayonnaise. So going forward, whatever bowl game, hopefully we're going to major bowl games going forward. And if they want to dump oranges or sugar or roses or toasty or potato chips or cotton or whatever,
Cotton would be very safe.
Yeah, that sounds a hell of a lot better than mayo. I know that.